All right, good evening. It is 6:30 p.m., March 22nd of 2023, and I'd like to call the special meeting of the Board of Directors of the Williamson Travis County Municipal Utility District Number 1 to order. So let's do roll call. Director Flores. Here. Director Fabre. Here. Director Jones. Here. Director Avila. I'm here. All right, moving on to item number 3 of the agenda. Persons wishing to speak during citizen communication must sign up to speak prior to the beginning of the meeting and are limited to 2 minutes. Comments on applicable agenda items may be expressed during citizen communication only. All right, so I have the first person listed to speak, Carol Newell.
Well, I'm just here tonight to say I'm Carol Norrell, here again. I'm here to affirm that I have indeed submitted my application via email for the vacant seat on the board at this time. And maybe just to affirm that with you, board, that I'm not affiliated with any one of you in any form or fashion. I have no single group that I am identified with, other than what I've revealed to you in my letter to you. So that's a pretty good snapshot of who I am. I make decisions based on fact, not emotions, not personalities. And then reviewing those facts is what is beneficial to the MUD, what is beneficial to the residents. And that I say that with sincerity in my heart, to say that to you, whatever you may or may not think about me as an individual. But I think that I have proven myself that way fairly well within the community. So tonight I'm not going to stay here very long at all. I did submit my letter of application, but sometimes things get misplaced in cyberspace. So I'm going to hand deliver to each of you tonight that same letter that I sent to you via your email. So, thank you. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to apply.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Cynthia Kimball.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Kimball. I live in Lakeline Oaks, so I live in the MUD. I've been here 3 years and just starting to understand what it is I belong to. I've come up a few times before, and today I just wanted to express 3 things. One is I'm very interested in knowing about these water treatment plants, its repair and or replacement. And not just that, because you talked about that last time, but how that compares with a balanced budget. So I'm sure there's everything on the web. However, that doesn't really tell me how to get there. So I'd somehow, I don't know, if somebody could communicate with me, Cynthia Kimball, I'd love to know a little bit more about how we're doing that. Secondly, our bonds are being paid off in August, as I understand it, and I'm wondering if the board has communicated with the city of Cedar Park within the last few months regarding that issue. Do they have an interest in annexing us? Do we have an interest in being annexed? So I haven't been able to find any of that information, but as a member, that's concerning to me. Our taxes are going to, to this board to allocate money. I'd like to understand that. And the last thing is about brush pickup and the contracts that we enter into. When that was approved, I was very alarmed about the lack of information that corresponded between the bid information and our board. I don't think there was enough information, and maybe we just weren't aware of it, and maybe you guys were. But I had no idea how many labor hours that included for $1,800 a day? Were we getting one person? Were we getting 10 people to pick that up? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Art Medrano.
I just want to make sure I get her name straight. Regarding the nominations, I guess you're going to select a board member tonight for to represent the board. I would like to represent Cheryl because she represents my area, so I'd like her to be considered or be taken under consideration. But I also am concerned, can we make a selection of the board member without a legal representation here to have them sworn in?
It's not tonight.
It's not the time? Okay,
we
so you're
can't
just going to
have,
select?
I know.
Yeah, we can't
Okay.
answer questions.
That's
You
all I
you can
have.
tell them factual information.
What's that?
You can tell them factual information. You have your night mixed up?
Well, has not been the, yeah, we're not going to discuss anything with
So you're not going to make a
communication.
selection
We're finishing
tonight?
up right now.
No.
Hold on.
No.
Okay, so let's just not, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move on to item number 4, the Hatch Lift Station. Okay, so wait a minute. Scott is trying to connect.
He's
and
here.
He's there. Okay, so he wants to give an update about the storm cleanup, status of the cleanup. So I want to ask the board if it's okay that we move agenda item number 7 to item 4. David? Yeah, go ahead.
Scott, can you hear us? Oh, no, we just lost him. Hold on.
Hey,
Hey, you're on. We got you on,
Okay.
we have you on speaker.
good. How is everybody?
Can you guys all hear him?
Yeah.
Scott, you want to just give us, I think we're all good. Everybody good? He's asking if we're all good. Question. Can you share with us where you are?
Yes, I mean, I sent an update yesterday to Mackenzie and Beth, and we did work out there today, so we made a little bit more progress today compared to what that update was yesterday. I think we're all the way to Hatch at this point from 620, and Park Forest has, I think it was marked completed, but it has a few houses left to do that they're going to do tomorrow.
Okay.
Following that, depending on kind of what we discussed tonight, is going to start over in Valente Hills, but keep the crew that's working from 620 down towards Old Mill moving in that same direction.
Okay. And how are we doing on hours?
Well, today is probably tipping the hours, maybe even a little bit over, which I'm fine with, but I didn't want to delay anything. So we're out of time as far
Okay.
as the not to exceed.
Okay.
And you know, I'm here to answer any questions. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to do that.
David, do you have a question?
How are you, sir? My name is David Flores, the director here. Just had a question about GPS on your vehicles. Is that something that you have on all the vehicles that you send to the district?
We do have GPS. It's with the Verizon Connect. Some of our vehicles have issues here now and again, but for the most part, it's pretty spot on.
Okay, and is there a report that you can generate for the days that you had that you were working in the district that you can provide to verify that you were in the district?
I can, however, there is one truck that's been going out there that the GPS is having issues. We do use a cloud-based software that it's called Aspire that our crews clock into. not just for the day, but into a specific ticket when they reach their property that they're working on for that day. Typically, those have a geofence in them. It'll have like a yellow light if they're on the property and a red light if they're outside of that geofence.
Okay. Yeah, if you would be able to provide any data so we can kind of see it and make a better, it's very helpful to make decisions.
Sure, understood.
Would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir.
So what I'm hearing right now is that we need to decide if we're going to have you continue, because right now you're stopping, correct?
Yes, we are to that point, so we need to make a decision if we're going to move forward or not.
Okay.
Director Fabry, questions?
Actually, David asked my question. I had already asked Scott for his GPS reports because he's gone through the hours in, of course, less than 30 calendar days. And I understand that he was charging us a calendar day for each crew he had out here. But I don't believe any crews actually worked 8-hour days. At least we didn't see them for 8 hours in the district. So that's concerning to me, because if we don't have some way to measure his performance, then, we paid for 240 hours. What did we get? Less than half of the district is done. So that means we have a project now that is going to exceed the purchasing threshold, and that's concerning to me, because if we add on to his contract, he's going to go over $75,000 for this service, and we didn't bid it, and it wasn't an emergency. So that's concerning to me. We need to really figure out after tonight, after we hire an attorney, what we need to do to move forward and not violate purchasing laws.
Great. Did you get that, Scott? I know.
I did. I heard that, yes. I mean, just to kind of speak to that a little bit, I was asked to propose a daily rate, and so, that's how I proposed it. And I can explain how we measure the hours and do all that. It's actually 960 hours as opposed to the 230, I think that was mentioned. We use 3-man crews, and internally we that's a 10-hour day for a 3-man crew, so it's 30 hours per day that's dedicated to that work ticket. That does include travel time.
Does or does not? Sorry.
It does.
Okay.
It does include travel time.
That's
kind of why there's the extra 2 hours on there.
Okay.
So, Scott, my question is more of a clarification. We've met at a committee level. Can you again verify? And I think there was an email that was sent out to clarify our communication. So, how do you go about charging? Because it was we've talked last meeting, right? At our last meeting, and so we weren't really clear whether you were charging like a full day. If you only had a crew of 2 people, so we weren't really clear, and I think we made those clear at the committee level. So can you explain that again?
Sure, absolutely. So again, I was asked to bid it at a daily rate, and the way that I did that was I proposed a 3-man crew for 30 hours a day, makes a full day. What happens in real life is a 3-man crew, let's just say a 2-man crew goes out there that day. They work the whole day. They work from 7 to 5. You're only going to be using 20 hours of that 30-hour day because there's only 2 people there absorbing that time. And so you have 10 hours that didn't get used that day, so that's not considered a full day. We bid it on a day basis, but it's actually hourly when you get down to the skinny of it. And so that's an advantage to you guys as far as it's not considered a full day if a two-man crew is there for 10 hours. That's considered 66% of a day. And those hours are then moved to the next day or just remain on the ticket itself. And so the way that I track that is, I look in our cloud-based software and, I've got them all written down right here. On March 15th, they were there for 27.75 hours. To me, that's a three-man crew that probably left at 3 o'clock. And so you still have those 2.25 hours that didn't get used that you still retain. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the proposal?
It's in your board packet
It's in the board
folders.
packet.
From the meeting where you approved it, if you need it.
I do need it. Not for tonight, but I would like to see it.
Now, I think that wasn't clarifying the proposal. And I think that's what we talked about last week, right? So I think you've sent an email, right, to clarify those missing elements that weren't in the proposal, written in the proposal, correct?
I sent that email asking those questions, and he responded to 2 of them today, and then I think the 2 of you had spoken to him the same day I sent the email where I had asked for him to report the loads and all of that. That hasn't happened, which I know y'all had discussed as a concern and wanting that to happen as far as knowing how many loads and what streets are being done at least every couple of days.
Right.
But he did respond and provide the clarifications of the 2 questions I asked in that email.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else that they want to ask before we hang up? Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you guys. Just let me know.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item, Hatch Lift Station.
If you look in your board packet folder, you'll have the, for agenda item 4, you'll have some things in there, most of which I put in there. Herbert, did you add anything to this? Did you add anything to this? No. Okay, so in that folder, we've included some pictures that were taken on Monday when Alderman was able to get down inside the lift station. It really doesn't paint much of a picture other than there's a problem. It shows all of your electrical controls and components as corroded and fried, obviously due to the overflow. Alterman has not been able to make a diagnosis. We don't necessarily know that they will. They're an electrician. They can't 100% say. However, there is still roughly 4 foot of sludge down at the bottom of that lift station, and you can see it in some of the pictures where the brown is on the bottom. That's sludge. We've put in a pump either late this afternoon or we'll go first thing tomorrow morning. I know they were locating it today. That will pump out more. With that, it's simply because I believe physics, you can only pump it out so far, and so it wasn't pumping the bottom 4 foot. So we're getting essentially a better pump that can do that. That will take place over the next couple of days. Alterman is prepared to start installing the panel tomorrow. So the panel that you all were aware of at the last meeting has been acquired, and they are prepared to start tomorrow to get that installed. That will get us the basic controls back at the lift station, and then with that, there's also a memo in here that I've given you guys, and I didn't want to read off of it necessarily. With that, we hope to continue to uncover things as we go. We're still not definitive on what happened or what took place, but very likely more can be revealed once the additional 4 foot of sludge is gone. So Herb and our operations manager met yesterday and discussed and reviewed all of the pictures and videos, and I don't want to speak for you, but you're kind of in agreement on that as well.
Yeah, right now you cannot determine what, my focus is still, there's gotta be a broke pipe or something within that system. The way they're hooked up with this bypass, they're utilizing the force main still. So that actually alleviated one of my concerns about it, the force main having broke just outside the dry well, where it would come back in through that penetration of the wall. So now if they're able to use it without any more, that's a good thing in my book. So now we're just down to the pumps and check valves and a little bit of pipe that's within that drop bit to physically see and see what, something has to be broke. There just has to be. There's no other way to get the sludge in there.
So I have a question. Who came out and did the inspection on Monday?
Ultimately.
Ultimate. So was that the $50,000 diagnostic?
No, that's to install the panel. That's all of their labor to move all of the controls up to install the panel. That has nothing to do with any sort of diagnosis or anything like that. They
So-
went down below to get pictures because he asked.
Right. So the $50,000 then is for them to install the $9,000 panel?
They're gonna have to remove a lot of the electrical controls down below. We also still have to pump that out for them to be able to complete
Get
the
down.
job. So nonetheless, it still has to be pumped. They're gonna start tomorrow with figuring out what controls they need to move up with that panel, and part of that is gonna be confined space entry, which is part of the reason why it's gonna cost as much as it is. So yes, that is what that installation
Okay.
cost is for.
So we still, once we have the diagnosis, we still have that fee to pay?
Correct.
I'm almost wondering if we should, it seems like it's a waste of $50,000.
It's not.
It's not, it will give you full controls back of your list.
No, I don't mean, the electronics, I understand you have to do, otherwise we're gonna
Right,
have,
the issue is the makeup and delivery of the panel that needs to be in place. And that's going to take at least 6 to 9 months, assuming there's no manufacturer issues with some of the chip systems that go in there. I mean, that's the reality of that. And I don't think it would be I think you'd be taking too big of a risk to try to continue to run on that backup pump, bypass pump out there. I just think that's too big of a risk for failure.
so the electrical panel they're gonna put in is just gonna buy us time?
Yes, ma'am. All it really does, it turns pumps on and pumps off. It alternates between the two. That's all it does. There's no alarming, there's no recording, there's none of that information will be available. And from what I saw and what I read on the submittals, that is definitely something to be able to get that lift station back in service to where you don't have to worry about bypass pumps and things going wrong in that part of it.
But if it doesn't have alarms, then if in the middle of the night it starts to flood that dry well again, nobody's gonna know until it starts seeping out into the street.
There's only so much you can do with what was available.
Oh, is
And
that
that
the,
was the panel that they found that was available.
I see.
Most of them have a 20-week lead time to get a panel of that nature in.
So that's the best that can be done?
For the time being.
Right.
Once we get more sludge pumped out and we get a more clear picture of what's down there below that leftover sludge, I think we'll have a much clearer picture of a path forward. We just can't say without seeing it and knowing what broke and how to fix it. Nonetheless, the electrical panels and controls that are still down there still need to be moved up for future use in general. But yes, there's really no this happening.
Unless we replace the whole thing.
Well, I mean, that would obviously fix your problem, but me and her can't really say that that's your best option yet, because we don't know what broke. We don't know if what broke is just a simple pipe or a large check valve, we don't know.
At this point, I would highly recommend you plan on moving the control panels to the surface. Absolutely.
It'll eliminate a lot of costs from ultramen and things like that people we have to hire to go down in that well because they're trained to do so. So having your controls up above is gonna give people a full picture of how they manage that dry well when needed in an emergency state, and things like that, without having to go down into the well to do it.
So, and within that, also within this proposal is to address the blowers that are in there, to address upgrading some of the alarm systems that are in there, the transducer reading of the levels within the wet well. It's every bit of that, and at some point going through these records, it appears most of those items have had to be addressed over the last 4 years. So and it's unfortunate that we're in the situation we are. I think it was clearly an unforeseen. I don't think anybody could have foreseen this. But at the same time, our recommendation initially was because of you have the system down, you have the pumps and the check valves, and all of these items are now accessible. Now's the time to replace those because of their age and how long they've been there. In 2021, you spent quite a bit of money on maintenance of those pumps and that nature. It's not wasted money, but, you know, they should be replaced and not just patched at this point, in my opinion.
Something to keep in mind too, and this is just a small bit of information, this is of your 3 lift stations, your problem child, and it's because it's the way that it is. It's not like the other 2. Part of the problem. It's a dry well where the others are wet wells, correct?
Yes.
I have a question about TCEQ or any environmental. Do you have any concerns that we are in violation of anything that they don't require alarms, they have minimum requirements that the pumps need? I know it's an old lift station, it's probably grandfathered in that, this is just the way it was.
So it currently has an alarm on it on that bypass pump. So that bypass pump that we have out there has an alarm on it. So we're not acting without an alarm right now. But as far as alarms from the TCQ standpoint, there are standards you have to meet, and I couldn't recite them to you. I don't know that you could either.
For design, yes. In an emergency situation, no. You got to get it going. And because then you're more apt to. Your bigger concern now are spills. We've already had an event, and how do we quickly get past that? And the direction you're going right now gets you past that point. Now, as I noted I guess it was just last week when we met, I do foresee that Infomark's going to have to make more frequent trips by that lift station because there's no telecommunications at this point. There's nothing. So you got to put eyes on it. Outside of that, I mean, that's the only way you get past that until you get a new system.
And if you look at the spreadsheet I put in there, if you filter it by biggest number on the work order side, you'll notice one of the most recent work orders is tallied up time of having somebody go out there and check it every single day just to make sure it's not faulting. And because that alarm system does not come to us, it goes to the company that owns that pump. They have to let us know, or they send people out. But if it's during business hours, they let us know, and we would send somebody out. But if it's overnight, they send their own crew out.
So what's the lead time for a new system? If we were to, if you decide or it's determined that's the best approach, how long are we waiting before the market has one for us to do?
Well, and most of these types of panels are not bought off the shelf. The vendor will actually build those things from scratch. So I haven't talked to one to find out what's the availability of all those little triggers in there. My estimate would be 6 to 9 months on that because of that. And a lot of that's based on what I've run into on some other projects, on some of the values there. That's why I think the control panel installation right now is a great benefit.
Yeah, it's cheaper than putting that temporary stuff out there.
Or leaving it out there.
Or leaving it out there for 6 to 9 months for sure.
Sir, let me, you can clarify this. So they're coming in to install the panel, correct? Now, they are some electrical controls that are no longer operable. Now, are we planning to replace those controls before the final assessment is done, or no?
No. The final assessment can only be achieved once the pit is dry.
Gotcha.
That's the one key. As far as anything electrical within that well, from the pictures I've already seen, everything's of no use. The electrical's no use. It's really down to mechanicals. What needs to be, what broke, it's really just what broke. And that's really the only thing that needs to be determined at this point. As far as the district making a decision to move forward with this full replacement that was drawn up last year or not. I mean, That's just a decision the board needs to make. Recommended? Absolutely. Because of the situation. I just don't see any other way.
It's not going to get better, and if you look at that spreadsheet that McKinsey produced for us today, you can just see a steady failure. It's just getting worse, not better, so.
I've been on the board for 3.5 years, and it's been an issue the whole time I've been on the board.
It has. In 2021, that was, the rest of the years, it pretty much averaged around 10,000 a year for even electrical stuff that they had to go out and go down in the confined and do all that. You were averaging 10 to 15,000 a year for maintenance. Well, when you looked at $10,000, $15,000 a year, then you're looking at even 600,000 to replace it. You don't have a very quick payback. And then we had 2021, and I believe the expenses in 2021, I want to say those were 60 or 70,000 for 2021 alone. Over the 4 years that was provided, and I forgot my total spreadsheet, but the 4 years provided here are in the packet was 125,000 over 4 years. 70,000 of that came from 2021. So that's the bulk of your expenses. I think this year, I wish I'd brought that with me. Smooth, forgot about it. I was doing too much trying to get there.
2023 or 2022?
2022 was a real expensive year. We had
2022. It was
136,000.
2022, and that was,
2021, you were right at, at 54,508. And this is just our work orders. This doesn't have anything to do with any type of put on anything. And then in 2022, you were at 47.
Wow.
47,
And that does not include Herb's,
That's strictly our work order system,
Yeah.
so that has nothing to do with any time put on it for any sort of additional or even subcontract.
Or the
services
design
paid
for the
directly
new-
by y'all.
yeah, the design for the new
well,
system.
yeah, it's not in those
Yeah,
numbers.
yeah, it's not in
That's-
these numbers, so,
That's totally separate.
yeah, and I've asked her to pull all that for me too, so that I can look at the total cost just for this one lift station over the course of 4 years. But yeah, I agree with you, it's time to do it. And I did actually look in the budget, and I think I found the money.
Good.
All right.
So,
I'm good. This is something that we've been needing to do for a while, so I know what needs to happen. Just needs to do it.
Excellent. So, no further questions? All right, so let's move to the next agenda item, which is general counsel interviews.
So, I know I'd like to ask, do y'all want to move forward, or do you want to wait for another month? How would you like to handle this on this lift station?
You're making
If you
As
want
far as the
to.
new controls,
Put those in.
okay,
And
but I mean,
think I should probably.
Isn't that what we just?
I thought we-
That's what
I thought-
we agreed
Yeah, I thought that
last.
was agreed.
It was on the basis of an emergency, so that's just to get the lift station back up and running. If you're gonna start replacing things that not quite cause the failure, you're gonna be,
I think we're still okay in that aspect. We still need to get that control panel, that temporary control panel
Right.
put in. That's not a permanent solution to
Correct.
the issue.
Right.
What actually broke is yet to be seen.
And once you know that,
But-
then come back.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you regardless, I can tell you with what I saw in the pictures already, that the stuff that was bid before needs to be installed. I mean, I can just tell you that based on what I saw.
And you know there's a 6 to 9 month lead time to get it.
I'm confident of that.
so keep in mind if you wanna wait.
Why not, can we just all raise our hands if we want to do that? Because I think we're all in agreement.
No, it needs discussion and budget looks and
Yeah.
before we do that. But I think that absolutely the control panel part, absolutely you should go do that. Get that done and then come back with what you found broken in the lift station itself that caused that dry well to get wet. And then, by then, we'll have somebody, we'll have a general counsel and we can make those huge decisions with some legal opinion.
Do you want stuff prepared for your potential special meeting next week?
That'd be ideal if you can pull that together.
For what?
The special meeting next Wednesday, they intend to have a special meeting next Wednesday.
But Herb, that doesn't mean that we need you're welcome to come, but unless we're going to give Herb direction,
You would probably have to, because you're going to have to open the bid back up.
I was gonna say, we need Herb here.
well, I thought you said it was an emergency and you didn't have to bid
We
it.
shouldn't have to at this point.
Okay.
That's
Your understanding of how that works.
correct. And, I mean, I can look back into that, or if y'all hire some legal counsel tonight, then, you know. if you
That's the
want-
purpose
more-
of next
yeah.
Wednesday's meeting,
I
is to
feel
try
more-
to get these things resolved.
Okay, I mean,
with-
I'd like to run it by whoever you do.
Yeah.
Bring on,
Yeah.
to make sure legally we stay on board.
I'm counting on it.
Like I said before, I'm not legal counsel. I'm
Yeah.
just-
That's why we're doing another special meeting so soon, because we have a plate full of stuff that needs attention,
Okay.
and we're not lawyers, so we need a lawyer, desperately need a lawyer.
Okay, so.
Director
yeah.
Flores, any input on this? Do you want to go ahead and shoot?
I
look into
think, no,
a
we should.
motion or?
I don't think we need a motion today. I think it's premature, and I think that we should just wait till we hire counsel, and I think it's the smartest decision.
That's fine, I just wanted to be clear on the direction.
No, thanks for asking the question. I think that'll clarify things, so.
Yeah.
And the control panel is a go.
Yep.
We all
Yeah,
agreed on
Yeah,
that.
that was agreed last week.
Yeah, that was last
Yeah,
week's.
You know,
That was last
obviously,
week.
I think we even did a motion on it.
Right, yeah,
We did.
we did.
So can I ask a question? Will that include you at least, and we might be all talking about the same thing, but will you be picking up the electrical from the bottom and bringing it up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
That's the
Make sure.
direction that I'm recommending, yes.
Okay, and that you can do right now?
So
No.
the temporary box is not gonna be out. It's gonna be still in.
No, okay. The temporary box that y'all voted on will be out and up. What
Okay.
she's talking about is all of the additionals.
Yeah,
That-
No, so that's gonna be
That's
something
when
we'll
you
come
can-
back at a later date.
That's
Right
the large
now,
project.
The panel you all approved, pretty much approved at your last meeting, spoke about is what we're putting up and starts tomorrow.
Okay.
It'll give you general controls, no alarms, but you need it nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. I think we ought to wait for an assessment, get all the information so we can make an informed
Okay,
decision.
well, I'll more than likely, we'll be here next week, by that, we'll have everything down, all the sludge should be out of there by that time, to be able to physically see the stuff, and I can report back on that and give you an update, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Thank you,
If we
Herb.
can move money around and make the decisions next week, the better, the better.
Take pictures,
What's that?
take pictures or it didn't happen.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm all about that. Anything else I got?
Nope, thank you,
Okay,
Herb.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
So moving on to item number 5, general counsel interviews. I would like to discuss the order of how we're going to do things first before we move on. I think, I propose that we have, we get to interview each person individually, instead of having all attorneys in the room, so maybe if they can step out. That's what I propose. I mean, I want to hear your thoughts about it, but before we jump on this, if we can kind of agree of a process as to how to go about this.
I agree with that. I think that's fair for everybody, including them.
I'm David Klein, this is Danielle Land here with me from our firm. We're happy to go outside. I mean, I know it's being videotaped, it's being
Exactly.
streamed, but we're happy to go outside while you interview
Okay.
the other candidates.
Okay, anybody?
Cole Malka with Coach Rose. I'm also very willing to go outside while the other candidates are being interviewed.
Okay,
William Davis, same.
say, okay. What's your?
Whatever they're more
thoughts?
comfortable with. When we did this last year, the attorney stayed in the room while we interviewed everybody, but I have no objection one way or another. If you're more comfortable outside, then by all means. We're trying to be very transparent about our decision-making process, but you are not obligated to stay in the room while we interview the others. And maybe there's an edge to not hearing the same questions 3 times, but whatever makes them happy. I'm good either way.
No, I like having them step outside, so this way, I think it's, I prefer that method. One thing I did want to ask for consideration is time limits. If we can kind of push that aside and kind of just go about asking questions and kind of put a hold on that time limit so we're not pressured. Nobody wants to be pressured under time when they're interviewing for positions.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Do you have any comments on that, on time limits?
I would like to try to do it all the same so that it's equal for each person, but I know that we may have a few more questions for one person than, if something comes up. But if we can try to keep it equal, I think that would be fair for them.
Okay. So I think I'm hearing, I would like also them to step out, so that way we can have a one-on-one. And so I'm hearing you're good with that. You're good, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
So we're all in agreement and we'll ask them to step out.
What order would you like?
First.
I don't really,
You can just go in order of the way that they're in the folder.
That works.
okay,
All right, I'll look
let's
at
do
it.
that.
Yeah, I think it's Coach Rose first. Yeah, and then it's Davis and Associates, and then it'll be Lord Should be the order.
Grab water, it's warm out there.
How will you alert us if we go step out?
We'll come
We'll
get
come
you
get
and let
you.
y'all know to, or whoever we send out will let the next person.
Yeah, well, we go for it.
That's all we have on hand.
Okay.
That's good. Is that green light flashing?
That's why I brought it.
Yes, it is, yes. The sunlight, yeah. Good evening, board and guests. My name is Cole Konopka. I'm with Coach Rose. I can give a little brief synopsis of me and my career, or go straight into questions. I leave that up to you all.
I would love to hear about you.
Okay. Well, so I began at Coach Rose in 2016, so I've been practicing specifically in the mud world for the past 7 years or so. I represent about 15 municipal utility districts in and around the Houston area. I've been responsible for creating a little over 30 through the legislature and the TCEQ. I moved to Austin here in 2023 with my firm, specifically to try and grow a bigger footprint in the central Texas region. We have a number of new districts in the area, but we do not have any current residential districts, residential or mature districts, as the phrase is used. And so I represent, again, a majority of mature districts in and around Houston and Conroe, as well as developing and strictly industrial. So I see all three different angles of the mud world and three different needs. Obviously, an industrial district has much different needs than, say, a mature district, and a mature district has different needs as than a developing district. So right now I'm in Austin, like I mentioned, out of our Austin office. I travel back to Houston to represent still my clients who have remained with me. That does not have an impact on representing you all as a board. I do not have any conflicts on the meeting dates that I know that you all have proposed and that McKinsey has mentioned to me as well. And really right now what I'm doing is I'm working with our legislative group as well as general counsel and bond counsel, and so I've been very active with session right now, creating bills, tracking legislation on behalf of our clients. And so that's really a quick little summary of what I do in my role with Coach Rose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is there an order which you want to go?
We're going to go this way, so let's start with
Ready.
Director Flores.
You mentioned 15 districts that you had. Are they MUD districts or are they PIDs? That
All 15 are municipal
are they?
utility
Okay,
districts,
awesome.
yes.
And in those MUD districts, how many of them do you enforce deeds, and do you take your violators through litigation in those MUD districts?
So the majority of I'll say the majority of our firm's municipal utility districts do not enforce deed restrictions. That's not to say that the MUDs don't have the authority to do it. Typically, all of our districts have active HOAs, and those HOAs have taken on the responsibility of enforcing deed restrictions. should an HOA go to one of our boards and request those services be turned over, I'm sure the municipal utility district would be willing to do that. If we were to enforce deed restrictions, yes, we would probably go through a format of sending out notices and then litigation. We have attorneys in our office who do litigation, specifically here in Austin as well, who have done HOA enforcement litigation matters. I've had one HOA case that I've litigated. It was not associated with the municipal utility district. It was actually a favor from my wife, from one of her clients. And so that was kind of my touch into HOA and deed restrictions, and it was a fascinating case, I'll say. So that's really, in short, the majority of our utility districts do not enforce deed restrictions.
Have you had any involvement in related to deed amendments or changes in districts?
Again, not specific to districts, no, but with the client that I represented before, yes, I went through that process with them,
Okay.
yes. I'm familiar with deed restrictions. The majority of our clients, we have board members who are also members of the HOA, so oftentimes we get questions about deed restrictions, so I'm familiar with reviewing deed restrictions, reviewing enforcement actions. I'm well versed in that.
Okay. That's all I had, really.
Thank you for coming. We're really happy to see you here. Do you now, or have you ever provided legal services to any of our contracted vendors, specifically Infomart, Gray Engineering, or Sage Management, which is our former deed enforcement contractor?
We have not represented them, no. I've worked with Infomark. Infomark's been an operator on a number of our districts in both the Houston and Dallas area. So I've worked alongside Infomark, but we've never represented Infomark in any matter.
Good. Is there a statute that requires an attorney be present at meetings of the board that have been properly noticed?
I do not believe there's a statute that requires an attorney be physically present at any meeting. Some of our boards, for example, I have one district in Montgomery County, which is north of Houston in the Conroe area. It was created in 1972, and from about 1972 to 2017, it worked without an attorney. We still reviewed all of the documents, obviously not me at that time, but we still reviewed documents. Now the district is more active because we have active development. We're going through bond issuances, so I have been attending that district. But no, I don't believe there's a statute that requires the physical presence of an attorney.
Do you know, does the TCEQ require that every board have an attorney?
I do not believe, I cannot state whether the TCEQ has a regulation requiring that.
Okay.
If it's not a regulation, it's probably a strong recommendation from the TCEQ. Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that we got this far without an attorney in the room, and I wanted to make sure that we weren't looking at trouble in the future. So you've clarified that.
I think one of the main reasons to have an attorney present is to ensure that your contract documents are following guidelines, make sure open meetings laws are followed, make sure your residents are taken care of, really to make sure that you are acting within the boundaries of the law. We have a lot of districts where we have directors that have served on the board for 30 plus years, and they like to call themselves attorneys, operators, and engineers. So they are capable of making decisions and staying within the boundaries of the law. But I'll say in terms of our district, our policy, Coates Rose, we typically attend every meeting, whether physical or virtual, depending on the board. We have some districts that call special meetings, and they simply say, we don't need an attorney at this meeting, but we'll send you our notes. And we know that based on the agenda, because we post those, we know that there isn't a large item that's being discussed, and so it's not something that we feel concerned about.
Okay, good. It has been explained by a previous council that the role of the general counsel in a district is to protect the entity. Does that protection extend to the people who pay the taxes or the board that spends them?
So the role of general counsel is to protect the body, the governmental entity, the district. So, for example, I do not represent you all, or the general counsel would not represent you all on an individual basis. We represent the board, the district. Similar to that, we would not represent residents in the district. Our services do not cover residents. So general counsel is represents the entity itself. Obviously, directors are an arm and a leg of that entity, so we do, in a sense, represent you all and ensure that you all are making the right decision on behalf of the district, but we do not represent the residents, no.
What is your position on personal property rights?
That's a very loaded question. I believe I believe everyone is entitled to their personal property, and again, I know that there are deed restrictions here, and I know that you all enforce deed restrictions, so if this question has any indication or you're trying to go towards deed restrictions, I know that a person has the right to do what they wish with their property. However, if there's restrictive covenants in place, those must be followed.
And my last question for you, in your legal opinion, does the power of a majority vote of the board allow for the exclusion of another member from fully participating in its proceedings?
A majority vote of the board is a binding vote, in my opinion, with a district. I have never had a district or a set of directors ever censure another director or request for another director to not take part in any conversations. My view with districts and MUDs are that directors, as an elected official, you all are here to serve the residents and to serve the district. So in a perfect world, which we know it is not a perfect world, but in a perfect world, all directors are able to put aside differences and work together in order to achieve those goals. You are here to represent the residents, the taxpayers of the district. So whether directors disagree on certain positions, I still believe that dialogue is important because it might bring up conversations, or it might allow one director who has not thought about that issue to strongly consider it. So really, to answer your question, a vote of a majority member of a board is a deciding vote. So that's a binding vote.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, Director Jones?
Am I going before you?
You can go.
Okay. I think you already answered it. Have you ever worked for a MUD that has to enforce deed enforcement? I think you answered that already. We do have several litigations going on presently. How are you at taking these right away and, dealing with those? So those litigations were going on with the last lawyer and the lawyer before. So they're just things that need to be taken care of so that it doesn't get...
So the ball is not dropped, yes. Well, if it is ongoing litigation, it would be something that we would probably want to reach out and get all the files from your previous counsel, get caught up to speed with it, and then we would pick up where they left off.
Okay, thank you. The next question that I have is, you probably have heard that it's been a great deal of animosity within this board, and it's been a struggle with the board that we've had. That includes a history of a board member filing complaints, frequent complaints within the board association. And if they're unhappy with something, then it gets straight sent to the board, or to the state. This is the reason why we've lost 2 prior attorneys. And so I just want to know how you would handle that, because I don't want to have to lose another one.
Are you saying that there were complaints made against the previous attorneys?
Yes.
Are the complaints valid complaints? Was the attorney doing anything that was illegal, or?
No.
I mean, my personal take, and I've represented, or I've worked with an attorney who had a complaint filed against her from another attorney, actually, during deed restriction enforcement litigation. And it was an unfounded complaint, and it's a real big issue when attorneys have to deal with that, especially when they are complaints that have no basis. Of course, if an attorney does something wrong, then yes, the complaint is valid, and that attorney should face that. I think in terms of if there is a resident or a complainant who wants to make a complaint against an attorney, I would open myself up to be able to have a conversation with that person first to really decide what is the issue. Is it my style of legal proceeding? Is it the way I'm distributing information? What is the issue that you have with me and my work, or me and my firm? And I would like to probably try to resolve that on a one-on-one basis with the complainant. I don't know if I answered your question there, but.
Well, I just want to make sure that it's something that you can handle, because that's why we're looking for a new lawyer again, is it just, there was a lot of animosity and it just got bad enough that he quit. And that was with board members, not with residents.
Well, I know, and
And so I just want to know how you would handle it if you were getting those.
if I had animosity with a board member.
No, if you kept getting filed on, if you were getting complaints on you, how would you deal that when you're our attorney?
I think the first thing I would do is I would go to the complainant and ask, what is the issue that you and I have with each other? Is there a way that we can resolve this to move forward? Because again, my view with representing MUDs or special purpose districts is I'm here and hired in the best interest, or to act in the best interest of the board. So I'm not here for any personal reason. I have no personal gain in representing a MUD. I'm hired to represent the district, and so if the district is unhappy with my services, then by all means, the district has the right to move on and find new legal representation. If there's a particular director who's unhappy, I would like to have a conversation with that director and see what it is that I can do to move forward. I am thick-skinned. I deal with a lot of directors, I have some great directors. I have some directors that I'll say are not on my Christmas card list. So I am thick-skinned. I know how to handle certain situations. But throughout those situations, communication is key when dealing with directors and even residents.
You answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you. I think that's everything that I had.
And I don't have any questions. Thank you for, I think you're a good candidate. We'll see what happens.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you all again, Mackenzie, for helping out. I'll let you all interview your other candidates, but like I've mentioned before, I recently moved to Austin. I'm really trying to grow our firm's presence in Central Texas. I have a lot of experience with mature districts such as yours and the issues that go on in such districts. So I would love the opportunity to represent you all. But like I said earlier, it's a board decision, so you all make your decision, and I'm sure it's going to be the best one. So
I do have one more.
Sure.
Have you watched more than 5 of our meetings by video?
I have not watched more than 5. I think I've watched around 3.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with some issues that have been going on. I will say there was one meeting, I believe it was 6 hours maybe or so. So I didn't sit through the entire 6 hours, but I did, to be completely fair and honest with you all, I skipped forward to listen to certain issues, and I looked at the agenda online to see different issues that I'm familiar with. So yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys score? Did you score the proposals?
Not have, I didn't
Oh, will you let the
score. Just took
next-
notes.
It'll be Davis.
Davis?
It'll be William.
We don't have to submit the scoring, right?
No, but it's a measure matrix that.
Are you all ready for the next?
I took a look.
We are ready for the next one.
Davis?
Yep, I took the notes.
This is
I
a
did
small
too.
FYI, y'all gave him 16 minutes and 30 seconds. If you
How many?
try to- 16 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's what I was hoping for,
I timed
15.
it just so y'all would know roughly around. I know it doesn't.
He talks fast if the other one talks slowly.
Got to repair a little wardrobe malfunction. They had suspenders that decided to come disconnected here in the middle of the walking. That's always convenient.
You did that.
1901.
1901.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Are you ready? Please introduce yourself.
My name is William D. Davis. I don't know if you've, from the last one, also developed an order that you want to talk about things in, so I didn't know if it was just question and answer, or if you wanted me to give an intro, or...
Yeah, just go ahead and
Love
introduce
it.
yourself, and then we're going to
Okay.
go around and ask questions.
Okay. Again, my name is William D. Davis. I am an attorney. Prior to my life as an attorney, I was a practicing engineer. In fact, I hold a professional engineering license. I went into law with the goal of becoming an intellectual property attorney, and I was, and I practiced one, and I still am. But that continued to morph into doing more and more things. And I ended up doing, I'm licensed in Texas, California, and Oregon as far as states are concerned. I'm licensed before the Patent and Trademark Office as a patent attorney. I'm licensed with the Texas Board of Professional Engineers as a professional engineer. I'm presently inactive, but I maintain that license. Sorry. And I'm licensed in a number of federal courts as well, and including before the Fifth Circuit. Patent law is a lot of administrative law when you're doing patent prosecution. I did quite a bit of that, and my administrative law expanded into state administrative law, including practice before Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the Public Utility Commission, and also there's a state agency called SOA, State Office of Administrative Hearings, where contested cases go. They may start off at TCQ, but TCQ sends things, and the PUC sends rate contests over to SOA. So I have experience in state administrative law, federal administrative law. I also, I'm a civil litigator. I've done quite a few cases. I prefer appeals as opposed to trial court, but I've had a number of trial court cases as well. And I believe if you have a copy of the materials, I've handled quite a few more appeals, but the ones I provided are perhaps, they may seem boring to you, but they're perhaps of more significant of importance because they're reported decisions and they represented precedential decisions, particularly in the Fifth Circuit, which is a tough environment to get good precedential decisions in. With respect to water and local government, I've been very active with the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. I did develop rules for them and was engaged to develop rules several years ago. But more often I find myself having to go to the legislature to work to kind of rein things in a little bit. We have some people that tend to want to overreach. They're going to control the world when they get in control of the groundwater district. You control the groundwater, you also control development, and that's the goal of a lot of folks out there. Other local government, I've been somewhat active in county activities, particularly Open Meetings Act issues. I don't know if I could provide anything more than that as an intro, but feel free to ask whatever questions you want.
Thank you. Do you want to go same order?
Yeah, start with you.
So currently do you represent any MUD districts at this current point in time?
I do not presently represent any MUD districts.
Deed enforcement is, I think, something that it's very. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people believe that it should be this way, and others believe that it should be another way. What is your stance on methods of deed enforcement pertaining to my districts?
All right, let me give you my take on that. I typically represent homeowners who've been sued by an HOA. And that's actually fairly frequent. That's quite a bit of my casework. You're a MUD. And I guess one of my questions would be is, if it's not really related to the MUDs, if it's not related to the water infrastructure or harmony infrastructure, I would have a question about putting MUD resources into the deed restrictions. As a practical matter, I realize this MUD has special legislation, although that there's some case law about, that doesn't mean that you can, there's other MUDs that have gone out and tried to invest in buying new tennis courts and doing things like this because there's certain provisions in the water code. But the question is the alleged theory supporting the MUD enforcing deed restrictions is to preserve a tax base. But as a practical matter, what deed restriction is it that is actually affecting taxable values? Somebody didn't bring a trash can? Is the MUD going to litigate over that? How did that affect the values in the property? The other issue is the taxes that the MUD collects are calculated as valuation times the tax rate. Well, the MUD sets the tax rate. So I guess the question is, if the theory is that the MUD has the ability to enforce deed restrictions in order to preserve a tax base, is the deed restriction you're trying to enforce really related in any way or going to impact the tax base? Because you're going to have to put resources out on enforcing those restrictions. I do, however, believe that if the restriction is there and was intended to, I would have to know more about the history of this MUD, but a number of places, it starts off with an investor-owned utility or some private community well system or something like that, and then it becomes a MUD or a water controlled improvement district or something along those lines. And so at the time it was originally developed, there was no local government entity like a MUD, and so they tried to put together various things like easements and restrictive covenants and things like that to provide for an entity that didn't have any governmental powers to begin with. You have governmental powers. I think deed restrictions that have anything to do with protecting the water infrastructure, well, you have an independent ability to do things under the water code. Like if somebody tries attaching to your system or things like that, you can prevent that. But I think deed restrictions that are tailored to protecting the, sanctity and integrity of the water system, I don't know what other services you might provide, but yes, those. But I would be very cautious about others, especially if they really don't if they don't have anything to do with, it's sort of getting off mission in my personal view. But I'm an attorney, I'm not the one that sets the objectives of the organization.
Right, right.
So that would just be my thoughts about deed restrictions.
Okay. Public Information Act, withholding and getting an AG opinion, how often do you think that is something that should be done, and ask the AG for an opinion on matters? Is it?
Okay, well, I don't know what the frequency of requests. I hope I'm not making a big noise on your recorder. I don't know what the frequency of request is or the nature of request, but there's definitely times when it's appropriate to say no, especially if there's a matter that's the subject of litigation, and the issues can be handled through the discovery process and litigation. But otherwise, I guess it depends on what they're asking for. If they're asking for, I can tell you there's a big case going on right now in Travis County, and there's a law firm that frankly was trying to conceal its business practices. It represents probably 100 different MUDs. And what they were advising the MUDs to do was they weren't properly posting elections. They post the notices outside of the district. They wouldn't reveal contact information for the board members. They would only put the law firm's contact information in there. And the whole goal was to insulate the public from being able to communicate in any way with the board members. And the board members were essentially always put in a spot by a developer. Even these are supposed to be elected positions. So one requester asked for the contact information for the board members, and that's required by law. You're required to have that by law. And the law firm said, we're not going to provide that information. And then they request an AG opinion. Okay, well, why would you do that? So the AG, this is for 132 months. So the AG came back pretty quickly. The law firm made the request incorrectly. The AG came back pretty quickly and issued 132 opinions. You're not entitled to withhold the information. So the law firm turned around and filed a lawsuit with 132 MUDs as the plaintiff, I can tell you they're going to lose. It's an interesting story, but my point is why are they withholding this information? So I guess I don't have a good answer for your question because it depends on the nature of the request.
Right.
Don't hold it back if it's required by law to give it,
No.
and you don't have a good reason.
Okay.
So,
All right, appreciate it, thank you. That's it, yeah.
Thank you for coming.
all right.
Do you now, or have you ever provided legal services to any of our contracted vendors, specifically Infomart, Gray Engineering, or Sage Management?
I have not provided any, either engineering or legal work. However, Infomark, it used to be Severn Trent, I
Yes.
believe, and Severn Trent was managing the water system, one of the water systems where I was involved, and I did handle protests. Essentially, in some ways, they're an independent party. They were just managing the system, but it was an investor-owned utility, and we did file a contest with TCEQ, and subsequently, part of it got shifted over to PUC because they sort of split some responsibility in later years. I don't know if that directly answers your question, so I didn't represent them.
You didn't represent Infomark.
Correct. They were, however, involved in administrative proceedings on behalf of the utility, and we were representing customers of the investor-owned utility.
Who won?
Well, it was kind of mixed. So Severn Trent, they wanted out because the water system got put into receivership temporarily. And Severn Trent wanted out because they weren't getting paid. And they did, they basically quit. And they made it an issue that, hey, we don't have anything more to do with this because we're not getting paid. But it forced some improvements to the system. And we were happy that a receiver got in place because we were very concerned about water, having water,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Well, you did answer my question.
Okay.
In your legal opinion, does the power of a majority vote of the board allow for the exclusion of another member from fully participating in its proceeding?
I don't know what your bylaws provide, but you may have a provision that says, if somebody misses 3 successive meetings or something like that, the other board members can remove them from the board. So that would prevent them from participating. I don't think you otherwise can really, I don't think you can exclude a board member otherwise. I think you can have them removed, but I'm not personally aware of something that, if you have a problem, you should be looking at removal.
Well, the water code doesn't really allow for that unless you miss half the meetings, but
Yeah,
you answered my question.
okay.
Is there any statute that you are aware of that requires an attorney to be present at meetings of the board that have been properly noticed?
No. And at Hayes Trinity, where I've worked with quite a bit, when an attorney does appear, typically it's for a very specific topic on the agenda, and they will appear by phone. So they don't have to be there in person. But it's really to address an agenda item that the board's going to go into an executive session on to discuss. But otherwise, no.
Thank you. It has been explained by a previous council that the role of the general counsel is to protect the entity. Does that protection extend to the people who pay the taxes or the board that spends them?
You have raised an interesting issue in legal representation that deals with representing the entity versus its members and its board. So the board is the agent for the entity because that's the only way a non-natural person can operate is through the board. But technically, you represent the entity when you represent the entity. Pardon me? Unless the board member, if you're talking about litigation, the board members are also party to the suit, you represent the entity.
What is your position on personal property rights?
Well, that's kind of a large generic question. I believe in them. What do you want me to, can you give me a little more detail on that?
I really can't. It really relates to deed enforcement.
Okay.
And since you don't have MUD districts, I'm sure you're not involved in deed enforcement to the degree that it's done here. But again, it relates to deed enforcement and a property owner's property rights.
Right. Well, I believe a property owner has property rights. I would have concerns about, I've seen some things in different places where they threaten to cut, where a utility threatens to cut off water if somebody's not following a deed restriction, and I'd question what's the mission of the utility, because, just because there's a deed restriction, you have to, let me give you one example, if I may. Where I lived previously in Driftwood, the developer owned the water utility. There was no prohibition against having your own well, but the developer, you had to have permission from an architectural committee before you could put an improvement on the property like a well. So guess what would happen if you requested, you submitted an application to the architectural committee, you needed to have water because the developer's water company was unable to provide the water. It was going to get rejected. Similarly, they had a requirement you get approval for propane. If you're going to, everybody out there was on propane. You may have seen this more here in the last few years, but what happened is, like Southern Union Gas developed Supro, Southern Union Propane. They wanted to set up future demand for natural gas. And they did that by putting up these remote, huge 30,000-gallon propane tanks. And the subdivision would have infrastructure for getting propane from the central system. Okay, well, what the developers would do is say, oh, well, we want a royalty for life, or forever, actually, 9% of the value of the gas passing through the propane lines forever in order for you to get that contract, okay? There's not a prohibition against having your own propane tank, at least there wasn't in ours. Now they did, but guess who's in control of allowing you to have an alternative? So those kind of restrictions, in my opinion, they had an improper purpose, and it was designed to create a monopoly, an economically unregulated monopoly for the developer to the detriment of the people that were living there. We didn't have water, we didn't have propane. We had people building very expensive houses that were operating with generators every day and having water hauled in because of those things. So that type of, when you talk about personal property and restrictions, that type of restriction has an improper purpose to me. And so I would have a problem with, well, let's just say we were successful when we went to court on that one. That was at the Third Court of Appeals, and I was the lead plaintiff. So,
Congratulations.
Well, thanks. But, well, it's, it's a few years ago.
Okay. That answered my question very
Okay.
well, thank you.
All right.
Let's see. So you've not worked with any MUDs at all, correct?
I'm trying to think. I have not worked with the MUD, no. I've worked
Okay.
with groundwater district and investor-owned utilities, but not a MUD per se. It's a different. There are different provisions under the local government code for MUDs and also under the water code.
Okay, okay. So this neighborhood that we're in here, because we do have deeds in place, most people in the neighborhood do want to keep their deeds. There's a few that don't, but not many. We have several litigations going on presently. How are you at taking on these right away regarding
Pretty
deeds?
good. I'm doing a number of them now, and I'm pretty familiar with deed restriction cases. And I'm also pretty familiar with the other side most of the time. Yeah, I don't know how better to answer that.
Okay, the next question that I have is, over the past 20 years, we have usually had a lawyer present at all of our meetings. And I was listening to one of the other questions. I just wanted to see, is this something that you would be willing to do?
Yes. As I said before, I would double check because I've worked with other local government entities, and I would definitely want to double check the MUD statutes, but I don't believe one is required. And it's an option. So if you're talking about controlling expenses, you may not want to do that in every meeting, but if you want one, you can do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the reason why, well, we've had a lawyer just in place for a lot of reasons, just to help answer questions and, whatever comes up. But with this bud board, I don't know if you've done the research, but we have had a lot of animosity and some problems with our board on all getting along. Most of us haven't taken the time to get to know each other, but in either way, those are things that have happened, so we would need a lawyer that
I
is
can
present
understand.
all the time.
I understand that.
So that's something else, is this something that you would be able to handle? Because we've lost 2 attorneys. The last 2 attorneys we've lost because of a lot of the conflicts and things that we've had.
Yeah, sorry.
So I just need to know how tough are you?
Well, I mean, I've dealt with difficult leadership situations and differences of opinion. I do think it's important that everybody be included, because even if you disagree with them, they may have a valid point or different viewpoint that needs to be considered. But, I mean, I've worked in that environment before. I mean, you know, you guys are working for MUD. For a while, I was working for a voluntary HOA, and I can assure you, if you want to see disputes erupt, and you know, that's one of the environments where they're just really prevalent. And it's personal because it's people's homes and everything else. You know, and so one board member will say, "Hey, I want you to do all this other stuff." The only thing I would suggest is that there needs to be. You have a general manager? Okay, so a lot of times the general manager also works with the attorney, but there needs to be a mechanism for the attorney to, so that there can be some limit as to who is controlling or saying what the attorney has to do. Because he can't take 4 mutually exclusive, instructions and do all of them. So there has to be a way of resolving that. And the way we've done that in the past is setting up a primary contact, and then, if necessary, the attorney says, "Hey, we need to have a board meeting on this." It's not intended to limit anybody else from having a say. It's intended to, hey, as long as things are going well, there's not any disputes, this is the person you need to work with, that's your contact, work with them. But when things start getting difficult and you start having, this was a situation where one of the board members was being sued by the organization. She was, she helped initiate litigation against a homeowner or property owner, and then the settlement was to be that she and 2 other board members were to get lifetime fully transferable memberships in a golf course that the other property owner, it was a developer, had. And it's like, that's not proper. And so I was involved in that litigation, and she was trying to disrupt it because she wanted to keep me busy doing other things so I couldn't represent the board effectively. But, we resolved that by having a primary contact, and that was the easiest way to resolve it. I don't know if that answers the question, but I'm trying to give real examples that I've had and how we've resolved it.
It answers most of it.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions. A lot of I've read all of the information you've submitted. A lot of your experience seems to be, like you mentioned, a lot of patent prosecution,
Yes.
intellectual property, engineering background. Other than represent clients in state administrative agency proceedings, which is kind of vague. It seems to me like there's a shift in interest in government law. I think you've also posted on the State Bar website that you do government and administrative. Are you in a process of shifting interest, or is this something that you? Yes, a question.
Not exactly. Frankly, probably 2007 is, I had done exclusively patent work up until about 2007. I still do it, but from about 2007 forward, that's when we started having problems with the HOA, the water, investor-owned utilities and things like that. And I started, and plus there was a real estate crisis that happened right about that time. So the economy was pulling me into different things. Personal experiences were pulling me into different things. But probably from about 2008 forward is when I got involved in, I did say in there, if you wanted particulars, I'd be happy to provide a list. But the state administrative proceedings were before Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, also the Public Utility Commission, It used to be that TCEQ handled everything with respect to water utilities, investor-owned utilities, but the rate-making part of it got shifted over to PUC, so I ended up going to PUC for part of it. The other thing is if somebody has an application for a permit or permit amendment in this arena, it tends to go to TCEQ. Health and safety issues, other things, so you have to get approval from TCEQ. So during that process, people can, if they have an issue with something, they can contest it, and they can request for the initiation of a contested case. So I was involved in a number of contested cases involving investor-owned utilities, as well as the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, and one that was an attempt to create a new, larger district over western Comal, southwest Travis County, and Hayes Trinity. But all of those were administrative proceedings involving TCEQ predominantly, State Office of Administrative Hearings. That's where you go. There's an administrative law judge, and he handles the contested cases. Yeah. I don't know if that answered the questions.
Yeah, no, good, that's good. One of the issues that I believe we have is the way that our documents are formed, meaning think of it as bylaws, right? So there's a lot of things that need to be crafted legally for our district to operate in a equitable, organized format. And I like the fact that you're in engineering, and I think that's a good plus to help us build bylaws and rules and procedures, maybe certain standards of ethics of how to conduct ourselves. What's your experience in crafting these kind of documents that would help us administer and govern more effectively? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So on a kind of related topic, I do have quite a bit of transactional work, because when you have litigation, hopefully you get to a settlement point, or you're looking, and so you're crafting agreements as to how parties to something are going to resolve the dispute. Bylaws are more about how an organization is going to operate. And I do have experience in that area with respect to local government. That's one of the things I was engaged to work on with the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District. It's been a few years, but their rules were one of the things I was working on. And also dealing in HOA litigation, the bylaws, in those cases, not yours because you're MUD, but articles of incorporation are also a limiting factor on what can be done with bylaws, because there's a hierarchy of documents and order of which one controls over another. I have worked primarily on amending them or contesting them, not necessarily completely drafting them from scratch. But there's usually a base to start from, and then that's what we work on. Which one's the problem? Why is it a problem? You'll see things like when a developer leaves a development. Okay, well, they didn't ever resolve what happens to the developer's votes in some of the older ones. Or there needs to be a clear turnover to the homeowners. This is a little different for you, again, because you're a MUD, but these are the bylaw examples that I have had and have worked with. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. And one last question. Tell me a little bit about your experience in contract law. We do have, a series of contracts that, they need to be reviewed and examined. And, I believe that's an area of expertise. I've met, attorneys that's what they do, is they review contracts. So tell me a little bit about your experience in reviewing contract for a setting like this.
Alrighty, well, if it helps, that area, it is contract law, but it's frequently referred to as transactional law, as opposed to litigation. You can litigate a contract, but outside of the court, it's generally referred to as transactional law, transactional practice. I did work as outside counsel to a medical device company, working all their contracts with their vendors. Their concerns were, yes, price and product were concerns, but because my role was primarily as a patent attorney, my concern was protecting trade secrets for the company, non-disclosure, things of that nature. I've worked on some rather large medical device contracts where there's intellectual property involved, and there's going to be a transfer of essentially money and rights depending upon the project reaching certain milestones. And so it wasn't as simple, hey, we're going to hire ABC Battery Company to develop a battery for the medical device. It was more along, there's animal testing, there's implantation, there's development of different components of the device and reaching certain performance factors. That was actually a pretty large, multi-milestone type of project. I'm assuming you don't have things that have to be done like that, but essentially the closest thing in this area might be a multi-phase project. I don't know much about your water, the lift station or the well you were talking about, but I don't know, potentially that's a multi-phase project, because it sounds like you've got a control thing, you need to do something now, but you also needed to move some things and have a more integrated control system elsewhere at some point in the future. I don't know enough about it to speak any more on it, but that's an example of a multi-phase type of project. But yes, I have experience in those areas, but other than the really big and the individual component type of things, I don't know that I have anything in between. So,
And one last question.
Sure.
Availability. The attorney that we just interviewed, his caseload is pretty heavy. So I just kind of want to know your availability to serve our MUD.
Well, I believe I'm fairly available. I am in Hayes County. I'm a resident of Hayes County. I don't actually live within the district, but that's what MOPAC and 183A are for, right? Or actually, I think I took MOPAC as opposed to 183A. 183, I should say. It wasn't hard to get here. I do have civil litigation cases, but frankly, I'm trying to move away from litigation and go back to more of a administrative/transactional role, because the problem with litigation is it has sudden demands for huge, resources like all-nighters and things like that at particular times. They just get kind of wearing after a while. And so I prefer going to a more, it's not that it isn't work, it's just, you get contention for resources. Yeah. And that was one of the problems with civil litigation. So I prefer going back to administrative and transactional work, or more of it, I should say.
All right. That's all I have.
Is that it?
That's it.
I go tell the next people to come in? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks
for considering the application.
Thank you for applying.
Sure, absolutely.
How long was that one?
32 minutes.
Oh, wow.
You asked questions that time.
I think Linda also changed you.
Okay, good evening.
Hi.
I was joking to them, I'm like, now we come inside when it's getting dark outside, so this is,
So you don't have
This
the
works for
sun.
us.
You don't have the sun in your eyes like the last two did.
yeah. Well, when I was sitting there, I got a little piece, but just for the record, David Klein, I'm a partner at Lloyd Gosling, Rochelle and Townsend. We're a firm here in Austin. This is my colleague Danielle Lamb.
Meet you.
And we're happy to be here and have the opportunity to submit our materials and talk to you about and answer any questions you might have about general counsel services and whatever other services that might be necessary.
Do you want to share with us a little bit about your past history with?
Sure. So I started my law practice working at the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. That was the first real full-time associate type job that I had. I was a staff attorney there. I started doing water rates and wastewater rate work, moved on to water rights, and then just when opportunities presented themselves, there used to be in that section, I think we had 10 to 12 lawyers in there, but there would be one lawyer in the group that would do the district's related work. And so when the person that was doing that left, I jumped at the opportunity at it. I did it and worked on bonds and all the other types of applications that developers and districts file the TCQ to get approvals. And then after being there for about 2 years, I got hired away to go work at Lloyd Gosling, and I've been there ever since. And I'm doing the same things I was doing there. And I'm sure you saw from my resume, those are all kind of things listed on there. We also do water quality work as well, and all the I don't want to get too laundry list oriented here, but you know, we do the water quality work, and with the districts, we do the bond work. We do all of the governmental compliance work. We're familiar with the Open Meetings Act, the Public Funds Investment Act, Public Information Act, election law. Just, I mean, we represent many districts here in the Central Texas area in providing general counsel services. And so we're pretty well versed in doing that. And the reason that both Danielle and I are here, because we're on our 3rd year of working together, is that with our firm, we have a deep bench, right? We have a large group of lawyers that specifically do water law and all the different aspects of water law, or litigators that are specifically capable in water law issues, right? But we also put the right person on the job for the task to make it cost efficient for our clients. And so there's, you know, I'm the one, I'm not the guy with the gray hair, I'm the guy with no hair. So I'm going to be involved, and of course you're going to see me here at the board meetings, unless unless you want to have Danielle or both, or it just depends on our schedule. But the point is I'm involved, but you know, she's also more than capable to handle a lot of the district's related stuff. She does that for me today, and she's integral to our practice. I thought it was best not to have the paralegals that we put on the RFP to come tonight. That probably would have been overkill. But we have a senior paralegal that has over 30 years of experience in doing water districts work specifically. And then we have, his name's Fred Castro, and Sage Bilio is another paralegal that, again, she's got not as much experience, but she's capable of doing a lot of things. And again, her bill rate is lower. I know price isn't something you're looking at, but we just letting you know that's how we operate, unless the client wants us to operate differently.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you for applying and coming tonight.
Sure.
You represent several MUD districts in the Central Texas area. Question is regarding deed restriction enforcement. How many of them do deed enforcement? Deed restriction enforcement, and how many of them have you taken through the litigation process?
So, yeah, that was, and just for the record, about a year ago, when y'all had an RFQ for this, I applied, and that was something that I know we talked about at that point. And, you know, for most of our districts, deed enforcement is done through the HOA and not us. But what we focus on doing is staying out of the courtroom. And from Danielle and my perspective, what we do is we work with anybody and everybody that interfaces with the district. And so if asked. And so we work with plenty of people and entities where there are contentious issues, and we come to resolutions on it. But then we also have a litigation practice group that if things need to go to district court, they are capable of taking on that kind of work.
And can you offer any alternatives to deed enforcement using an enforcer that has been successful in other districts?
No, I think that whether it's your engineer or your lawyer or your accountant or your financial advisor, deed enforcement is something where there are consultants that specifically do that work. And the best way is to get someone or an entity that is a company that's capable of doing that, because like anything, repetition and economies of scale show that they're going to be the most efficient ones to try to manage it, because if they're dealing with it with 20 different districts, and they're probably going to do a better job than someone that just does it one off or two off. But you know, it like with every district, it's a consultant team, and so when things get contentious, and again, whether it's the deed restriction enforcement consultant or anything, you bring the lawyers in and they work together and solve the problems that way.
That's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. Do you now or have you ever provided legal services to any of our contracted vendors, specifically Infomark, Gray Engineering, or Sage Management, proprietors Jimmy and Diana Sackett?
No.
You've never provided services for them? For any of them?
I'm not aware of them being a client of our firm.
Okay.
Of any of those entities or those people.
Okay.
If for some reason there's something I don't know about, I mean, we have over 30 lawyers in the firm, but we do conflicts checks, and no one had any concerns. So I don't think that's the case. But if there was ever a conflict, we would let you know immediately.
Okay.
I'm not aware of it.
In your legal opinion, does the power of a majority vote of this board allow for the exclusion of another member from fully participating in its proceedings?
I don't know whether that's by design or not, but there's some ambiguity there in that question. And what I would tell you is that everybody that is on the board of directors of any municipal utility district is a governmental official, right? And they have the ability to perform the roles under Chapter 49 and for y'all, Chapter 54 as well of the Texas Water Code, and all the other ethical obligations and considerations that directors have. Now, part of operating meetings is to have, I guess, I don't know what's the right word here, decorum or a procedure or policies. I mean, all sorts of MUDs and other water districts usually have some bylaws or some ethics policies or other policies that kind of lays out how they're going to run their board meetings. So I think how the board meeting runs and the dynamic and being able to participate is usually governed by those documents.
All right. Is there any statute that requires an attorney be present at meetings of the board that have been properly noticed?
Can you say that again? Sorry.
Is there any statute that requires an attorney be present at meetings of the board that have been properly noticed?
So, for example, is my attendance at a board meeting that has been properly noticed, is that a requirement?
Yes.
No. Is it a requirement for me to be in an executive session where you are consulting with your attorney under 551-071? Then yes. Although I believe it allows for me to call in to that situation. But yeah, so like tonight, y'all started the board meeting without a lawyer. That's fine. And I know you're all looking for a lawyer. I thought y'all were doing just fine at the beginning with everything. But yeah, there's no, I'm not aware of a requirement.
A legal requirement.
For me to be here.
Right.
Right.
I just wanted to be clear about that.
Mm-hmm.
It has been explained by a previous council that the role of a general counsel is to protect the entity. Does that protection extend to the people who pay the taxes or the board that spends them?
So, yeah, I know the previous council, and I understand that, and I think that would be something that we would agree with as well. It's a interesting dynamic, the attorney for a governmental entity, such as MUD, because our role is to represent the entire entity, and so that means that we're generally looking out for, I don't want to say what is in the best interests of the entity, but we just want to make sure that the entity is being compliant with all applicable laws, right? Whether that's dealing with one director, all the directors, the general manager, staff. I mean, you can't pick one person or one position or one side of something. I mean, we represent the entire entity. That's our ethical obligation under Texas law.
What is your position?
In my opinion.
Oh, and I asked
Yeah.
for your opinion.
Yeah.
What is your position on personal property rights?
My personal, whatever my personal opinion is, it has no value here to y'all, right?
Your position on personal property rights.
Yeah, I mean, whatever I feel has no bearing on what in here, or whether you want to hire me or not hire me, and certainly my personal opinion on those types of things would never influence my decision-making. For example, I feel like one issue that can be divisive, I don't know about this district, but I'll just say another, not even divisive, but different districts have different positions on this, but is condemnation, right? Some boards would say that they are completely against condemnation. Some are more willing to consider it, and regardless of whether or not I have an opinion on that, doesn't matter, doesn't apply, because that's not my role, and B, I don't live here, right? And so it doesn't even affect anything that I'm doing. But I am representing the district, and I need to understand what is in the best interests of what everyone wants to do. And if the board makes a motion one way or makes a decision one way or the other on anything like that, for example, then my role is to provide counsel on it, and just at least make sure if you choose to do it, that you do it in compliance with Texas law. Or if you don't want to do it, then that's, work to other solutions.
Thank you.
How many med districts have you worked for?
I just say over a dozen of providing general counsel services. I think that if the question is well, I mean, the question is what you asked, but let me add on to it that in Texas you have MUDs, you have the water control and improvement districts, you have SUDs, special utility districts, you have water supply corporations, and even the water supply corporations are subject to a lot of the same Open Meetings Act, Public Information Act. And sometimes if they go get loans from the Water Development Board, you have to follow some of the same financing laws that the MUDs are required to follow. So I would say we've been providing general counsel services at least to over a dozen. And with respect to just working in some capacity for districts, easily go 20 to 30.
So you've taken care of 20 to 30 districts?
No.
Or just
Well,
helping
like I said,
them?
I've been providing general counsel services and answering questions in some capacity to those, to water districts and water supply corporations. But there's a number of other districts that we've worked for over the years where we're helping them with their permitting issues at the TCEQ or the PUC or the Water Development Board.
Okay.
Yeah, with
So have
state
you ever had
agencies.
your own district that you've cared for, that you've been the lawyer for?
Sure, yeah, like I said, over like about a
Okay.
dozen, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As lead counsel, yes.
Yes, okay, great. So with this board that we have here for the past 15, 20 years, we've always had a lawyer that's been present for all of our meetings. Is that something that you would do?
That's absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always my practice, because what I have found is that even, like I've had some clients over the years that said, you know what, we're bringing you in for something, we'll get you in, we'll get you out. I have found that just by staying for the rest of the meeting, you learn a lot more about what the community is trying to do, what the board is trying to do, and other legal issues that you maybe would never have known. So I think it's critical to be here, and that's one of the reasons that most of our work of being general counsel for districts is Central Texas located, because Danielle and I both live here in town, and it's easy for us to get here.
how do you feel? I know that a lot of neighbors live here because we do have deeds in place. And right now that we do have some litigations that are presently going on that people are concerned about or whatever. How are you at taking those over immediately, seeing how we haven't had a lawyer?
Yeah, that's not a problem. I was trying to send a little bit of a message with my, with our materials. We showed you the lawyers that'd be doing the bulk of the work, which is what you wanted to see. And you saw the references to us. But then I also added at the end, or we also added at the end, excuse me, some of the lawyers at our firm that do the litigation work. So yes, and I've talked to them, and they understand as well as generally what's going on with the district, and they were, let's go.
Okay. So my last question is, you probably heard that there's been a great deal of animosity between our board, and that includes history of a board member filing complaints against the lawyer. We've gone through 2 lawyers in less than a year and a half. How will you be able to handle that, and what are your views on that, on how to do that? I don't want to bring somebody in and then they resign also. So I
Sure.
just want to know, how do you feel about taking on all that?
Well, I mean, for starters, I was just looking at my wall this week, and where my diplomas and everything are, and I realized that this will be my 20th year of practicing law.
Congratulations.
And I've survived. But what I've realized is, what to your question is, I've never had a complaint filed against me in the 20 years that I've practiced, and I'm proud of that. So I'm certainly hoping that there's nothing that would ever change that record. I take my duties and ethical obligations very seriously. It's probably more important than anything. And so if there's ever something that gives me any concern, we would have a conversation about it. And I would hope that something like that would never happen. If that did happen, I mean, we would just need to take a look at it. I mean, because if y'all weren't happy with me, I mean, I guess that's one way of showing that you're not happy with the services you're getting. And so, I mean, if that happens, then this is something you have to try to understand the context of the situation.
Okay. Have you ever worked for a MUD that had to enforce deed enforcement?
I've worked, yes, our firm has a couple that do that, yes.
Okay.
I was not lead attorney on that, but those lawyers that I worked with are at the firm, and they have the capability of doing that.
Okay.
If I felt like I'm not a risk taker, so if I felt like I wasn't comfortable taking on this type of role, I wouldn't be here today. I promise you. But I came here a year ago. I'd love to be your lawyer. I want to be your lawyer. I didn't, I came in second, but I'm still here. I came back. And I hope that shows something to you about, that doesn't pop up on our response of how interested we are to be here.
My last question is, how strong do you think you are with problems that you have, or when things get out of line? How are you at bringing those back together in a public meeting or a private meeting? Doesn't matter, either one. So.
Yeah, I think that sometimes it's not even what you say, it's how you say it that really matters. I'm by no means the leader. I'm working for the leaders, but I think y'all might look to me from time to time, my clients do, as someone that can help, and I think remaining calm and collected and having thick skin are the types of things that everyone needs to see. And in 20 years, I've definitely developed a pretty thick skin. And so there's not much y'all could say, or a frustrating situation that would affect me.
And have you watched any of our videos?
I have. I did not watch anything most recently because I just wanted to do things a little different this time, candidly. But I'm up to speed. I understand that there. I guess the word is turmoil, right? There's been some turmoil. There's been some turnover, and I mean, candidly, I think y'all, when you think of Danielle and me and what we want to do for the district and how we're coming in here, is we want to. We don't have a side. We don't have an opinion. Our opinion is the more efficient and that we can all be, the better we all are. And that doesn't mean that one side is always right or one side is always wrong.
Shouldn't be sides at all. So,
yeah,
you know.
right. And so my goal is, because I know there's been turmoil. My goal is to just try to help facilitate so that if that still exists, that we can try to minimize that.
Thank you. I think that's all.
Okay.
I do not have any questions. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Do y'all want to deliberate with all of them in here? Would you like to ask them to step out to deliberate to make your decision? How would you like to do that?
I think it would be better if we did it by ourselves. I think it would be hard to do that with them in there. I don't want to be rude
If y'all
to
will
them.
step out,
Of
I will
course.
come get you guys whenever they're ready to make a decision.
All right, I want to hear everybody's thoughts and.
I'd like to clear the room.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Here do I got?
Well, since we're live streaming, literally, we should be transparent in how we make decisions, so, and did you fill out did you?
I don't have one.
You didn't do that?
I did
I have
not do
tons
that.
of notes. I have tons of
I have
notes.
Okay,
notes, plenty of
what we-
notes to make.
That's what we talked about when we put this out there, so that we could objectively score them based on the material they submitted. So
Right.
if you guys didn't do that, this is useless. So now we're gonna just have to do it based on the interviews.
I wrote down a lot, so I'm good.
All right, so we're starting, we're going to go this way?
No, go the other
Director,
direction. this time.
Flores.
You want me to go
for
first?
it, Yeah,
That's fine.
go for it.
I'll just do how I have them laid out. My concern with Mr. Davis is that he hasn't ever worked with the mud before. So I think with the situation that we have and the types of things that we have in our muds, that is a little bit of a concern to me. He only did Patton until 2007. I have some good things that he's done. I think that his appeals would be beneficial to us, and I think that he does have some information on the Open Meetings Act. He's got a little bit of practice with that, but when I look at all three, he's definitely the one with the least experience. So that's how I feel on that one. Do you want me to keep going on the other two?
Yeah.
Okay, so with Cole, I think he's got a lot of experience. I think it's great that he's in Austin. I think that he's got 15 district MUDs that he works with. He's got some mature districts that he's been with. He's got bond work. He's got compliance. He's got deed work. He's got water rights. He's written 20 bonds. He's got TECQ. More than 10 years experience. He's got 18 legal assistants I put down. He's done the litigation work and general counsel with all. I think those are a lot of good things. I've got other stuff that I have on him too, but I think he's a great candidate. I think that Mr. Klein also has some good things. He's got water rights, water districts, bond work with TECQ also, same as last, I don't think I put that on there, but obviously he does. Water quality districts, compliance, personal property rights, Public Info Act, he's got voting rights, general counsel experience, lots of lawyers in the office, which would help us also, but so does the other one, so does Cole. let's see, Mr. Klein has got 2 paralegal assistants. I believe that Cole's office has, I believe he's got more than 8 or 10, I believe. So between the 2, I think there's some good things about both of them. I think right now I'm a little bit more leaning towards Cole, just from the experience that he has. But that's just where I am right now. So that's where I am. David, you want to go?
I found Mr. Davis, I liked him. I think he's a brilliant man. I think it wouldn't take him long to learn about mud districts and get informed, and I like the more personal, that he's not a big firm. I'm kind of sometimes weary of big firms, are they looking to make money? It's that they're, I think that's the impression I get with big firms. Sometimes they just want to get as many mud districts as possible and keep partners happy, and that's just, I like more of a personal relationship. But, I think Cole is a great candidate. I really like his personality. I think he could work well with everybody. Letting Gosselin, I think he has the experience in this area, is familiar with, he actually scored the highest when I did the scoring criteria. So if I went by the scoring criteria, it would be David Klein, then Cole, and then Davis. So, but I think they're all good candidates.
Yeah, I liked them all. I think there's something to be said by a solo practitioner. We've had such good experience with Bill Flickinger. He was a solo practitioner, and I do like that aspect of it. But he hasn't been much in the mud business, and it's dirty business. So we really need somebody that understands it thoroughly. So mine too, when I scored, Mr. Klein came out only 60 points ahead. But I do like Coates Rose. I was really moved by their presentation and their interview. I like that too. And I also like that they are not tainted because they're not already in the area. So the scuttlebutt that happens, mud districts are a small world. They would not have been exposed to it because they're not in the area. So that kind of leads me in that direction. And I think because he has an experienced partner above him, because I think that's going to be maybe necessary in the future. I know he has some good experience to draw from. So, I don't think we would go wrong with Coates Rose or Lloyd Gosling. I think both of them would be excellent candidates. I am leaning more towards Coates Rose.
Yeah, I would agree that Davis, I believe he's very talented. However, he doesn't have any mud experience, and it would require for him to do a lot of research and a lot of spending time and understanding to really get things going. I think we do need somebody with experience, so definitely that's not an option for me. I like the fact that Coles and David Klein both have that collective experience. I'm leaning more towards Klein because of the experience. I think some of the answers to our questions were, seems to me that he's going to be representing the interest of all of us in a very neutral, objective way. So I'm leaning more towards, I really like what I saw at our last interview. And I think there's lots of experience, very clear understanding of his role. I think there are some good things about Coles. I don't know. Yeah, I think it would be, for me, would be, I'm leaning more towards David Klein. I really think would be a good asset for us.
Vote?
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 Okay, so how do we, so should you just go one by one?
Sure.
Okay.
Do your first one.
So
Or
let's.
just a show of hands.
Okay, show of hands for Davis, William Davis. We agreed, not the option. Okay, Coles. David Klein.
I have two. Did you vote?
No.
We need a tiebreaker.
Cool.
I like the fact that Cole, in his application, said that he would email all directors, not just specifically speak to one. And we all are equals here, and we all deserve to know what is going on in our district. Where David Klein, I feel that I got more of the impression that it was with the general manager and the president of the board. I'm not a fan of that approach. I think we're all equals and we should all get the same information and be aware of what's going on in our district. So for that reason, I would have to vote Cole.
You want a motion?
Wait, do you want to bring them in so they can hear it?
Yep, sure.
Okay, bring him in.
Okay, it's the firing squad. Wants to stand somewhere, sit down?
Have a seat.
I'll give you the onus to do the motion.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking all three of you for accepting the invitation to be our general counsel. We are grateful that you submitted your credentials. You are all extremely talented. It was not going to be an easy decision. We knew that coming in. But we have made a decision, and I'm going to do a motion in order to set this in place. So I move that we hire Coates and Rose to be our general counsel, effective immediately. And I need a second.
I'll second that.
You want to call the vote?
Yeah, all in favor? Say aye.
So it is not for lack of experience. You did a great interview. The presentation by Cole just kind of hit three of us in the right spot. So I'm sure all of you would have done a wonderful job for us. And I hope you're not discouraged should we have to, God forbid, hire a deputy general counsel. We don't foresee that in the future. Our last general counsel only lasted a year, And he was terminated. The gentleman before him was with us for 21 years. So we do have longevity in this district. Again, I can't thank you enough for accepting the invitation to apply. That was real important to us, and I do wish all of you well, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And I also would just like to say I've had an opportunity to speak with all the attorneys outside, and they are great, fantastic attorneys, would all do your district a benefit. So definitely keep them in mind for whatever your future needs are. They're all great people, so.
And, you know, because we sometimes hire special counsel, especially in the areas of litigation, I would like to hope that we can keep you on our books as somebody we could call in the future if we need that help.
We all knew there was only going to be one, but the positive thing for us is we met other counsel practicing in this area, and the network is being had. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
You want us to?
You can stay.
Oh, okay.
It's a cover meeting. You have to stay.
You
Where
can stay
go?
done, aren't we?
Yeah, we're about to be done.
Yeah.
Item 8
Thank
for
you.
next
Thank
meeting
you.
date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to meet you. Good to meet you too.
Thank you.
Confirm our next meeting date. That's the next agenda item. And we have that
Special meeting.
our special meeting.
329 for next week.
It's March 29th.
Question is gonna be if keys available.
March 29th?
Yeah, at 6:30. A week from today.
I will be available.
Here's what we were thinking after last week's meeting, because we've been doing them once a week since we terminated our last council. We have a lot of things on the books that are stale or late, and they're not being handled at all. And we need guidance immediately on how to get ourselves out of hot water with TCEQ. Our audit is late. As Beth mentioned, we have pending litigation that needs to be addressed. We have contracts that need to be reviewed desperately. We're holding checks because we need an attorney to review the contract. We have public information requests that are late. We have the question of purchasing. We need to have some legal counsel on what to do with our storm cleanup effort now that we've reached the threshold before we have to competitively bid it. Those kind of issues that are so pressing, we felt that another special meeting next week before we get back into our regular general cycle would be very helpful if we could just get ourselves out of this hole and then, clear sailing going forward.
Okay.
So you're going to need information before the next meeting.
Absolutely.
And I will give things to Mackenzie to send directly to you that I have on this future agenda items. These are the things we're going to talk about on the 29th. You want to make a list of them?
Why don't you just send them to me and I can get them over, if that's what, I think we've all talked about unless you've added
Right, we've
anything.
talked about them.
Yeah, I didn't add anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you
that's
just
fine.
want
Nothing
to, you want to read them out so they're recorded on the video.
Okay.
If anybody wants to go back. and
I'll gladly
listen.
do that. Pending litigation, contract review, public information requests, purchasing practice review, landscaping RFP, notice to our current landscaper, and deed enforcement practices committee and RFP for services. That's something that's outstanding. It needs a review before we let it go.
Okay. And so you mentioned your notice to your current landscaper. Is that notice of termination to your
Yes.
current landscaper? Okay. And have you gone out for RFPs already for landscaping?
We
Or-
had one out there and then the storm happened and they pulled it, so we didn't take any bidders.
Okay.
And ditto with the RFP for deed enforcement, it was out there, and then we realized that it hadn't had an attorney review, and so we pulled it last week.
Okay.
On the sunscapes, we had also pulled it because we wanted him to pick up all the debris before we thought about putting another one out.
Okay. Okay.
So that we can make all the neighbors happy and get everything picked up.
I
So
think,
that was why it's on hold.
I would like him to get his opinion. Well, if we're gonna give notice, right, then it should be fine.
It's kind of murky here, and we'll need you to figure this out. There has been, the contractor has been non-performing for some time, and apparently there's emails back and forth that, you know, that he wasn't doing a good enough job. Is that satisfactory notice to terminate, or do we need to give him an opportunity to cure?
Well, typically, and again, I have not seen this contract.
We will make sure you do.
Most contracts, especially with almost all contractors, there is a termination clause stating if you give 30 days notice, you don't need to have a cause. So I'm going to assume based on, I'm not going to say that. I don't assume anything, but without reviewing this contract, I would like to think that this language, your previous attorney probably saw that language and or added that language into the contract, so you all would know.
I can tell you, I reviewed it, there is not, it's very specific on the termination method as far as a cure period as well as notification, meeting with such. However, there was a meeting in the district with the contractor and higher ups in that, in the, above our account manager, and the items identified in that in-person meeting where we walked the parks with the committee at the time, the same issues have been happening, and we have text proof and picture proof of that for over a year.
Then that's good to have. If we have dates and record,
We do.
especially a written record, that would be, I think, good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, the biggest question I think is that we need to all vote on is, do we want to do that before all the brush is picked up? Because finding someone else may take a long time. And do we want to do that to our residents? That's the question we need to talk about at the next meeting.
It wouldn't stop anything that's going on because the process for bidding is lengthy. It takes time. And again, we're at a standstill with our current landscaper because he's exhausted all the money, the not to exceed limits we put on him. And we have nothing to demonstrate that he actually worked the number of hours. So I don't know if we want to do more of that or if we do want to hire somebody else.
Well, he's been really good this week because we're on him. So, you know, I don't know how we want to do that.
But
All I'm
anyways-
saying is I am struggling with letting him know that we're going to terminate him and that he decides not to finish the work.
Well, he's not going to do any more brush pickup unless we give him more money because he's out of money. So he's done with brush pickup. There are other people who do brush pickup, and as a matter of fact, our sister MUD, I checked with who they used, and it was a very tightly written proposal. You're working this many days, this many hours a day, you're going to haul this many loads, you're going to make 2 passes, you're going to do this, that, and the other. So there are other options. We don't have to use this contractor.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, maybe we should just talk about this in the next meeting.
Maybe we should talk about that in the next meeting. Again,
So should we,
Mackenzie can send you all the contracts you need to look at.
Probably do a meeting. I will give you as much information as I can.
And you still have the people that we interviewed, right? Because there was one that was really good.
Yeah, we didn't interview anybody. We met with that one vendor in the district because they wanted to let us know that they were interested prior to even establishing an RFP.
And he found that leak. I mean, he was great.
so let's
I would
move
make-
that we adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn the meeting?
Yep.
I just second that.
Great. All in favor? Let's go.
And I have your
A
card.
little longer than I expected.
I have to try it.
I don't know.